Next, we'll be hearing from Miss Judy Lowe.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to thank Emily and Marichelle for working so hard to put this together. They have spent many back-breaking hours trying to figure out what can we talk about, who can talk about what, and will people come? So we're very grateful to have you here and very grateful to the two of them for putting this together. And I hope you'll support their future projects as well. Preston covered a lot of really good information as far as the Portland Police Bureau and kids getting involved in gangs and things. And I kind of wanted to tie it in with what does that have to do with us? My kids are good kids, right? And we're not involved with that kind of thing. We don't know those bad kids. But first of all, there are no bad kids. It's just bad choices that kids make. And why do they make those bad choices? Because they don't have good information. Why don't they have good information? Sometimes we don't have the information to give to them. And that brings me to what I call the beginning. When our people came to the United States, and our people can mean Filipino Americans, they can mean Chinese Americans, they can mean anybody. When we came to America, we came here because it was the land of the free and the home of the brave. And it was better than where we were. And when we came here, we came for those opportunities. We wanted our kids to have a better life. And we did everything that we could possibly do to ensure that the kids would have the opportunities we didn't have. But what we didn't take into consideration were the other influences which were already here that maybe we didn't know about, or maybe we didn't know what to do about them. And that led to some of the things that Preston talked about, and some of the things that Roger talked about, and certainly the things that our youth speakers have touched upon. And that is that we come here with our values and our beliefs, and we want to pass those on to our children because they're close to us. They're who we are. And when we come to this country and we set our kids loose and we say, okay, you have the opportunities that I didn't have, and you have the freedom that I didn't have, our kids don't know what's different because it's what they've always known. And what they need is some tools on how to navigate in these uncharted waters. And one of their anchors is you, their parents. Another one of their anchors is their community, which is all of us. And another one of their anchors are their friends. Now, how do we choose friends? I might like you, but maybe you don't like me. Well, I can't do anything about your not liking me. I can act or dress or do things and hope that you like me, but if you don't, you're still not going to want me to hang around with you. And our kids face that, and Preston touched upon that. Sometimes it can be speaking with an accent, sometimes it can be dressing differently. Whatever it is, when we're at home, we conform to our parents' expectations. And that means that we reflect back to our parents and our families the values that we know that they hold, because we want to be accepted and we want to be loved. Now in America, it's a little bit different. At home, when I was growing up, I never questioned that my parents loved me. I knew that they did. And they never said that they loved me. Here in America, there's a big deal about telling somebody you love them. All of our songs on the radio are love stories, or they're love gone sour, or somebody did somebody wrong. And why is that? That's because it's real important here in this culture. And when it's not spoken or demonstrated at home, the kids begin to wonder, well, maybe they don't love me. Maybe we came here for reasons other than what they're telling me. And then, too, the values that we have at home and the way that we do things at home are different from the way the people that we're meeting are doing them. And where do kids meet most of the new people? It's in school. And in school, you don't have control over who goes there, even if it's a private school. The kids who are there at school are the kids who are there at school. And we want our kids to be in school because that's where they're going to gather the tools to make their lives productive. What we don't talk about is the differences in personalities, the differences in the cultures and the values that those kids bring with them. And we can't tell our kids, now, we don't want you to learn those values and those cultural isms that those other kids have. We want you to stick with ours only. Kids are curious. They're going to learn. They're going to judge for themselves and make those decisions. And those are some of the choices that these guys have talked about. Some of them admit that they made some pretty poor choices, and some of them have made some really good choices. Whatever those choices were, that's what brought them here today. And that's what makes them who they are. And that's what makes them who they will become. And you're a very big influence on that, because of the values that you gave them from birth until now. And the values that they're still checking, whether they say it out loud or whether they don't. They're checking the information that they're gathering from school or at the mall or in the parks. They're checking it with what happened at home. What do I know? What's familiar to me as a kid or growing up? And guess what? We as adults are doing the same thing. One of the speakers talked about how his values are reflections of his parents' values. Well, that's true of all of us. His parents raised him the way they were raised. We raise our kids the way we were raised. But everybody's life is different, and we've got new information now. And some of that information we think is not good for our kids. It might be unhealthy. The kids are getting involved with gangs. Crime is rampant. We see news stories, dramatic stories. And those news stories should be the unusual and not the norm. But because we hear so much about it through the media, we think, oh gosh, the whole world is going to pieces. There's so much crime out there. I don't want my kids to go out there and possibly get injured. Our kids interpret that as, I don't want you going out because I want you to stay home and I want you to do your homework and I want you to do chores around the house. And the kids say, my parents are too strict. They don't understand me. They don't know what I need. Things are different here. I want to be like my friends. I want to do what they do, go where they go. They get to stay out late. They can stay out past midnight. Well, to us, when we were kids, you couldn't stay out past midnight. For some of us, there was martial law. For other of us, there were our parents. Add to that the fact that I'm female, and you know when I came in right after school, and I stayed home. My brother could stay out, but he could only stay out until it was dark. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of gang activity. As a matter of fact, it's pretty famous around the country for the violent gang activity and the uprisings and the incredible violence that happened there, especially during the 1960s. Well, a lot of us who survived that period of time think what's going on now is business as usual. I don't see what the big hullabaloo is about. It's just people trying to survive. And guess what? That's how the kids of today see it too. I'm just trying to survive. I just want to get by. I just want to do my own thing. And my parents, they don't understand. They want me to do things the way we did them in the old country. Well, we're not there anymore. We're in America. Why don't they understand? Well, I think that they don't give you enough credit that you do understand. But it might be because the communications isn't there. They don't know that you understand. They don't know that I'm afraid for you to go out because I hear all these stories about these random shootings or these accidental beating up, and I don't want you to be a victim. Kids interpret it as, my parents don't want me to go anywhere, they don't want me to do anything, they don't want me to hang out with my friends. Well, parents also, we want to know their friends, but our kids don't bring their friends home. And when we tell them, well, who are you going with, where are you going, what time are you going to be back, the kids view it as intrusive. So I'm saying all of this because there's no right and wrong here. We're all in uncharted waters. We're all trying to take the next step forward. Preston was talking about violence prevention and gang prevention, and the GREAT program is great in a number of ways. One of the things he didn't mention was the Police Activities League program. And that is also a prevention program. It's focused on recreation, and it runs primarily during the summertime, although they do activities all year round. And that is a real good opportunity for all kinds of kids to get involved, to be able to give. And that's one of the things that I don't think that I've heard today, is how much our kids want to give. Emily and Marichelle wanted to give, and they worked really hard, and this is what they're giving to all of us, the community. The kids want to do something productive. They want to make something of their lives. Yes, they want recognition for what they do, but they don't know what they need to do to get recognized for. They think that it must be academic achievement because that's, pretty standard. You get certificates, you get the diploma, you get to be on the honor roll, you're something special. But at home, we expect that. Of course, my kid's the best kid in the world. Of course my kid's smart. He's going to make the honor roll. He's going to go to college and all of this kind of stuff. And when the kids don't, the kids feel ashamed, not knowing that I love you anyway, even if you don't go to college, even if you don't make honor roll, because you're my special child. One of the things that I have done is, together with Barbara and Tony, have put together a video production company. And I'm going to do like Preston did and make my little plug for it. What we do is we recruit kids who are interested in doing what Barbara and Tony are doing right now, and that's videotaping today's program. And we teach them how to produce a TV program, and then we get it aired on public access television. What the kids do is they select the topic, they learn how to do the technical aspects of it. That means, you know, things like focusing the camera, setting up the lights, fixing the sound, and then they do the program. They may come and interview you as the parents and say, well, not as your child now, but as an adult who has their own history and their own story, which is very unique. Tell me about this. When you were in high school, did you have these kinds of problems? When you were coming to the United States and things were very different, how did you feel? Were you scared? Did you get rejected? Did people make fun of you? And the kids can explore virtually any aspect that they want to. And then the professionals help them to edit it and put it together and air it. It's also prevention focused. And we believe that violence comes from ignorance, and ignorance comes from fear. And we know that all of us at one time or another have been afraid. And some of those fears have been ghosts in our mind, and some of those fears have been really, really real. They have been threats from other people who don't like us because of the way we look or the way we dress or what we do. And what do we do about it? Well, we can arm ourselves. And we can arm ourselves the way the gangsters do, or we can arm ourselves with education and knowledge. And the #1 prevention tool is getting involved. And that means getting involved not just in your parents' lives or in your children's lives, but also getting involved in the community, which we think is kind of foreign to us, that is the American system. We have local government. We have, within our local government, and here in Multnomah County, there are dozens of committees that the county would like our input on. They don't pay you anything. They're all volunteer. But what it serves to do is it teaches you about our system of government, which we have chosen to adopt by coming here to live in this country. Now, it doesn't matter if you're 18, 38, 48, 58. You can participate on these. And the benefits to you as a citizen are, #1, you will find that your voice is welcomed. You will learn about government. You will learn about other opportunities to get involved. And you will learn about how other people do things. Now, that is one of the things our kids are looking for, is leadership. And I'm a big advocate of leadership, not in the sense of, well, we have our governmental leaders, or we have leaders of the team or leaders of the club. Those are important too. But I'm talking about individual leadership. And individual leadership is making the decision to do something differently that might be a little bit scary to you, but has benefits that none of us at this point know. And some of those benefits are, our kids will see that we are still pioneers, that we are still willing to do things that are uncomfortable or different. We are still willing to take the risks to be laughed at or to be biased against because of who we are or where we came from. And we do it anyway. And when our kids ask us why, or they even look curious, they don't even have to ask us, we anticipate their questions and tell them. Because I came to the United States because I believed in the freedom and the opportunities. I want these freedoms and opportunities for you, but I don't know everything there is to know. It's very important for kids to know that we don't know everything. Because when we're little, our parents were our whole world. Life was a little bit different then, maybe a little bit smaller. And we looked to our parents for those answers, and they gave them to us. And guess what? Our parents were right. But now we're in a different environment, an ever-changing environment. We hear all this talk on the news about a global economy. Well, what does that mean? That means that the money that we use is no longer just restricted to our environment here. The dollars that I spend today turn into pesos tomorrow, turn into baht the next day. And they go all the way around the world, becoming francs and then back into dollars. Well, so the money flows, so does the world flow. You can get on a plane today, and later on today, you can be clear across the world. In some places, you can arrive before you even left because of the time change and the supersonic jets. And what that means is that the world seems to be moving faster and faster, or maybe I'm just getting slower because I'm older. But for our kids, they are the future. They are the ones who are going to lead when we're too old to lead anymore, when we want to just sit and rest. And it's our responsibility, I think, to give them the tools they have, the tools to make the choices, so that they can lead us in a direction where we want to go. We want our kids to take care of us when we're old. We don't want them to die before we do. We don't want them to be hurt because we care about them. I've been asked to talk a little bit about domestic violence, and that really doesn't tie into what I've been talking about. But domestic violence is a lot in the news these days. Domestic violence is something that has been a project of mine over the past year or so. I've been serving as the Oregon State Domestic Violence Council Coordinator. And I have found, as I have found in a lot of my other activities, that the Asian community is represented next to nothing. And I say next to nothing because if I weren't there, then it would be nothing. But cultural differences are not an excuse for domestic violence. There is no excuse for domestic violence. We see advertisements, we hear programs about it, we know people who have been beaten by their spouses or by their boyfriends or their girlfriends, which is very rare, but it happens. And that is an area where we can take leadership. I mean, this organization, the FANHS, can take a leadership role in that because the mainstream organizations are asking for our input. And they have come to me and said, you know, we've asked the Asian community for their viewpoints on domestic violence, and they haven't responded. Well, personally, I don't know any of the people that they have asked. They haven't told me who they've asked. I do know that this is an issue that's affecting our teenagers because, as we heard today from some of our youthful speakers and from our Portland police representative, that one of the reasons kids get into beefs is over these gender issues, these boyfriend-girlfriend issues, the love songs on the radios. And they look at us, because we're of a different generation, they say, well, you never had those problems because you're too old. You don't feel all the hormones raging, and you don't feel the love, and you don't feel the pain of a breakup the way we do. I mean, it's just life and death to me because I'm young and I'm of that age where this is supposed to happen. Well, domestic violence creeps in because our kids are now in a different environment. We don't have the entire village the way we did at home, where everybody knows everybody. Remember that? So you know everybody and their kids and what they're doing, and if they're in a place where they shouldn't be, you know it because you know the kids and you know the family, and you say, hey, what are you doing over there? Aren't you supposed to be, you know, your family's going somewhere. Aren't you supposed to be with them? Well, that doesn't happen now because look at how we live. Look at where we live. We're spread out over the Portland metropolitan area and beyond. And we can't possibly know everybody between my house and your house. And our kids have cars. They have the bus. They have Max. They have their friends who have cars. And so we can't really keep track of them. So what we need to do is make sure of two things. One of them is that our communications with our kids is strong, and that our kids know that we love them and that we'll be there for them, and that we're sometimes wrong. And the other is that you, my child, are going to go out in the world and I will back you. I'll be the one that's at your back. You don't need a gang to be at your back. You don't need to go the violent route. And you will have tribulations as a teen. We all do. I had them when I was a teen. You're going to have them, and I want to help you through them. Please let me help you. And that's what kids are looking for. They're looking for the respect as an individual that we have sought our whole lives. They're looking for recognition for themselves of who they are, where they are now, and not what they might become. Like, I know you're going to go to college and graduate summa cum laude or cum laude. I know you're going to do wonderful things, be a lawyer, be a doctor. I was kind of laughing when you said that because I went to law school.
I did.
And I think that if you avoided doing that, that was a good move. And so, you know, performing expectations or things that we think our parents are expecting from us might not necessarily be the things we want to do. I work in social service, quasi-social service. I'm an independent. I don't want to be attached to anybody because then they can't tell me what to do. I can call it like I see it. I can say, wait a minute, we're having discrimination here against the Asian population because, and they can't fire me. That's why I like to be an independent. But guess what? You can do it too within your families, and we can empower our kids and let them know that you don't need a gang at your back. You don't need to be looking over your shoulder for the police. Going to martial arts is good because of the discipline, the self-discipline that you must develop to become good. Martial arts is not just about, you know, kicking and arm swinging and things like this. Anybody who has been in Asia has felt the great spirituality from Asia. And they marvel at things like in Chinese we call it qi, which is the life force. And we look at the kung fu movies and we see how these guys are so rooted that someone can come along and push them and they don't move. They can just throw their hand out and their power goes out and stops the car. They admire these kinds of things. And kids feel powerless. Well, so do we as adults. Some of us feel powerless too. So we have to do what we can to work together as a community and transport that knowledge or transmit that knowledge to our kids and let them know, hey, I might not know all the answers, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to work with you to discover these things. Some of my best friends do homework with their kids, and it was topics that we learned. I mean, we went through school too. We learned the same things. And when they're doing homework with their kids, they learn new things. Well, you know, if we look at just the field of history, from the time we were in school till now, look at all these years of history that now our kids have to learn that we didn't have to learn because it didn't happen yet. Well, what does that mean? Oh my gosh, you know, it's not worth going to history class because I can't ever possibly learn all that stuff. Well, maybe what we ought to do is teach our kids what we think is important from history, things that impacted our lives and our families, and give our kids some skills so that they can determine for themselves what is relevant and important to the things that they want to do with their life and where they want to go from here. Because if a kid wants to be in the legislature or go to the White House, there are certain things about history he needs to know. But if he wants to be someone who trains in diversity or civil rights, then maybe he needs to know a whole bunch of different things that are still in the history books. Or maybe they're just interested in doing their own thing and not bothering with any of that stuff, and so therefore it's important for them to know their family history. Like, I don't know my family history. I know a little bit about it. I know that the communists came and killed my family. I know that. But I don't have any family to tell me why. I don't have any family to tell me, was there anybody who escaped and where did they go? I don't have any family to tell me what my ancestors were like. So I have to just kind of wonder and look into passing faces to see if part of my history lies with them. And over the years, that's developed into a passion for me for preserving our cultural heritage. I'm not in favor of these kids saying, I'm too Asian at home, I'm too American at home and I'm too Asian out in school or at the mall. So I'm going to be who I'm going to be and just discard all this other stuff. No, I'm not in favor of that. I'm very in favor of learning the language of my parents and my ancestors. If it's more than one language, I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of learning cultural dance and art and most importantly, history, because it tells us who we are, where we are at any given point in time. And it also gives us a benchmark against which to measure, where do we want to go from here? Who do we want to be? You know, I can go to France and become a French citizen. Well, what does that mean, a Chinese person being a French citizen? What's the history of the Chinese people in France? I think that I've digressed. I wanted to cover some of the points that the youth had mentioned, and I think that I've done that. The things that they want are respect, recognition for what they've done and who they are, and they want to belong. And I think that it is one of our major duties to let them know that no matter what they do, where they go, they belong to me because they're part of my family. And the people in this room I also regard as family because in a way we are. You know, we are the community, and we will be here for you no matter what. And I want the kids to know that whatever you do and wherever you go, you can count on me to be there for you, whether it be advocating for you at school or writing a recommendation for college or somewhere out in the universe, even when you're someplace else and you just need somebody to talk to. Call home, you know, like E.T., phone home. So I think that the message to parents is let your kids know you love them, let your kids know you don't know it all, and that you're willing to learn with them, and listen to the kids. I think that goes a long way to preventing violence. It will help the kids to make good choices that we are proud of, and it will help us to not say anything when they make choices that we're not proud of, and just to let the kids know I love you anyway. Thank you.